Hey guys, so I'm joined here by Ryan Black, who I actually met first by chance several years ago, and I recently caught up with him at one of our London trading events. Since first meeting him 6 years ago, not only has Ryan become top in his game for attracting and dating women, he also gets paid for it too. Yep, he's UK's highest paid dating coach for Sasha Dating Systems, who teaches anyone with the desire to get good with women and dating, or pick apart as they call it, to succeed and really smash the ball out of the park. But as Ryan has also embarked upon his journey to become consistently profitable in trading, I wanted to find out whether there are any parallels between successfully trading and being good with the ladies. So Ryan, have you found there are many similarities in terms of psychology and inner game in picking up women and your trading journey thus far?
Yeah, thanks for having me, and great intro. And I do think that's definitely the case. So what I noticed is in this journey myself, because we're all always learning, is the guys who get good when it comes to coming on my courses and going out and meeting the girls that they want to meet and going on dates and getting into successful relationships. One of the main biggest things that we work on, and that ties together the guys who are consistent with that, is being able to remove the ego out of the equation. And what I mean by that is there's a part of our brain that I term the ego that is very concerned with what other people think about us, what other people are gonna do and say if we do or say something. And a lot of the time it holds us back from taking the action that we know that we need to take. One of the things that we do a lot is we'll tend to emotionally invest in one particular outcome, and then experience really negative emotions if a certain situation doesn't go our way. So the classic, like the average guy who doesn't take one of my courses, who doesn't gain the success in this area that they're looking for, his kind of mindset will be maybe he'll see an attractive girl and he'll muster up the courage to say something. He'll try to introduce himself. It won't go very well because he doesn't have much experience and he hasn't done it that many times before. She goes, "No, thank you." She walks away, and he spends the rest of the day, maybe the rest of the week, maybe the rest of his life, replaying that in his mind and going, "Oh, I screwed up. I'm such an idiot. Oh, I'm a loser. I'm not attractive enough. What was I thinking? She's so beautiful. Never do that again." And they basically, that one situation causes them to give up totally, and just have all these negative emotions surrounding it. And that's the thing. If you can remove all those emotions and just treat that situation like an experiment, like an experience that's fun in and of itself, that it's learning, and just keep putting yourself into those situations. If you do one of those situations every day, then within a year you will have met 365 new women, and just statistically, at least one or two of them is probably going to be interested in talking to you and maybe going for a coffee or going on a date. Similarly, in trading, if you bet it all on one signal, and then it doesn't go the way you want it to go, and you lose everything, and you beat yourself up about it and go, "Oh, I'm an idiot, I don't know what I'm doing," and then give up, you're never going to become a successful trader.
Yeah, true. Recency bias is a real demon for a lot of people, where they cannot accept like one rejection or two rejections, say, by the lady, and compared to trading like a couple of losing trades before their big win. A lot of people can't hack it. It's incredible, actually. And that's I'm glad you picked up on that, because that seems to be a real sticking point for many, many people, actually. They want instant, quick riches, and if they don't get it immediately, they go home and cry to mummy.
Oh, that's another, with the instant riches thing, I think. Certainly it's definitely the case in the financial information industry and the trading systems kind of industry as well. There's a lot of companies out there that are kind of promising massive gains and all this stuff. We just click a button and money starts, they have those, like the image is like money just flying out of a computer screen into your face. And they're just like, it's this easy. And
Yeah.
in the same way, because there's a whole marketing industry surrounding all of the stuff online. In the same way, there's a lot of dating stuff out there. Companies that just go, yeah, there's just this one thing you say, and it uses a secret mind hack that CIA scientists discovered that only I know about, where if you say just this collection of just 7 words, then any woman, regardless of who you are, will instantly become attracted to you. And they promise something which gets people onto these, buying these courses, going in with just completely unrealistic expectations. And
It's the Holy Grail.
And I think part of that is what they're trying to do is remove something out of the equation that it's just necessary as part of learning anything. And so in the dating area, right, they're trying to promise something where they remove the risk of rejection. They promise something where it's like, if you just do this right, you'll never be rejected again, because they know that the most pain surrounding this area is rejection. And in the same way, the trading stuff is promising like you'll never lose money, right? And the thing is like both of those, like losing money trading and getting rejected in dating, are things you have to go through in order to be able to learn how to do them right. They're part of the journey. They're part of it. So what I do, like part of what we do, which is why it's a bit different, is we just get guys used to and actually enjoying the process of just having social interactions, regardless of how well or quote unquote badly they go, to the point where being again quote unquote rejected is actually just as fun as anything else. And in the same way, I would imagine, right, any good trader will just simply, they might not enjoy losing money, I would imagine, but any good trader will have to come to grips with the fact that, look, I'm going to be wrong some of the time. I can't base a trading system on having to be right on every single trade. But I recognize that being wrong is part of the journey to becoming successful. It's always going to be there. And it's more about, just like falling in love with the process of doing it, rather than tying your feeling of happiness to any particular outcome.
I see. So, I mean, obviously, like that, you can see the parallel already between not being outcome attached or having an emotional attachment to the outcome of the trade or of the interaction with a woman, and embracing a losing trade or like a fluffed interaction as an opportunity to learn a lesson. I mean, for example, a friend of mine who is a serial dater, I mean, he does quite well with the ladies, as I imagine you do. And he was telling me about, he had a string of like 4 dates in a row, all ended by what he called a kiss close. And then he went on one 2 nights ago, and within 5 minutes of the meeting, she'd blocked him on WhatsApp and the dating app. So
nice.
Instead of about it,
nice.
He embraced it as just one of those things. And I guess you could say that as for a trade setup in the market where it all fulfills your rules for entry, it looks great, you take it and it bombs, well, it's opportunity flow. It's just one of those things. Every strategy loses some of the time.
Yeah, and I think, I don't know what your theory, again, I don't claim to be an expert trader at all, but I would also imagine that going into a trade, like looking for trades, you want them to go one way or the other. But the last thing you want is to go in and it kind of just goes sideways for like 5 days, and you're like, I don't know which way this is going anymore. You'd prefer it to go like either just shoot to the moon one way or stop you out, so that it's like, okay, right, I was wrong or I was right, and then you can move on to the next one instead of just hovering in this no man's land of it's not really going anywhere. And it's exactly the same thing. With your mate there, right? He's obviously he's obviously hit upon certain patterns of behavior and how he does dates where it's either, there's no way that the girl can be indifferent to him, right? Either she loves him and it's great, or she fucking hates him. And I think that is also that is also like a very good lesson, is that I think we're especially I think in the UK, also in the US now increasingly, we're really afraid of being divisive, of being controversial, of saying something that somebody might sort of take the wrong way or whatever it is, and so we there's this pressure to kind of tone yourself down and to conform and to present sort of the acceptable version of yourself to everybody, and to me that isn't a winning strategy. I mean, it's a way to make sure that you reduce the possibility that someone isn't going to like you. But
you mean a nice guy, being a nice guy.
Exactly. But it also increases the chances that people are. It also decreases the chances that people are going to instantly love you because they don't really get to know you, and it increases the chances of exactly what you said, being this nice guy, very pleasant, very agreeable. And as much as often women say that's exactly what they want, they are basing what they say they want on the assumption that they're already attracted to the guy in the first place. And that's where a lot of guys take a women's advice incorrectly. It's not that the women don't know what they're talking about or that they're wrong. It's just that their assumptions are incorrect. So they say, I want a guy who does all these nice things for me and is sweet and is pleasant and is kind and all this stuff. But and the guy hears that and goes, oh, right, so if I just do all this really nice, kind, agreeable stuff, then girls will like me. Well, no, because the girl's basing her whole thing of what she'd like a guy to do on the assumption that she's already attracted to the guy. And those behaviors that she's talking about are some of the least attractive traits that you can have, because what they're actually doing is they're people-pleasing behaviors that are where you're modifying who you are and what you say in order to suit what you think other people want. And
so you're saying
go ahead.
Duplicitous behavior, almost.
Yeah, it's essential. It's just as it's literally it's the most inauthentic you can be. And the thing is women pick up on that like way more than like guys can often be a little bit socially unaware at times, and women are much more effective and much more attuned to picking up on social cues and what's going on underneath the surface of how someone's behaving. And so if you're doing or saying something that you don't really believe and isn't really consistent with who you actually are, but you're just doing it because you want that girl to like you, she feels it, and it creates the feeling of creepiness and weirdness in her. She doesn't know how to explain it. She doesn't know, but she's just like, there's something off with this guy, and it's because you're behaving in an inauthentic way. So one of my things is the behavior that is congruent with you and authentic and is actually what you actually think and actually what you actually want. That's the thing to do, especially if it's going to instantly get a certain percentage of women to just filter themselves out and be like, not interested, don't like you, in fact, I hate you. Because what's going to happen is there's going to be another percentage of women who think, wow, it's so refreshing to meet a guy who's actually honest and is actually authentic and is willing to kind of be a bit out there and say something a bit controversial, but I find his sense of humor funny and I quite like him. So yeah, suddenly she's much more attracted to you because you've done those things. And it's off on a tangent maybe a bit, but I think it's the same thing. Like when you're looking for a trade, right? You want something where you're going to get a clear signal very quickly, it doesn't have to be, the right way all the time. It doesn't have to be yes all the time, but just what can you do to get a clear signal? This is either going to shoot to the moon or it's going to stop me out, so that you get that feedback quickly and then take it as a learning experience and then move on to the next one, rather than having to wait around and be like, maybe it is, I don't know, I'll stay in for another, 3 days and hope that maybe it goes one way or the other. That's not the kind of, when I look at those, I go, oh dear, I don't know what I'm doing.
But I mean, you can get different strategies that suit different personalities. I mean, a lot of our clients trade the daily and the weekly time frame so that it can blend or splice trading with their real lives, rather than having to be saddled in front of the screen all day, which is not the aim of the game. But I mean, with the clients, you have Ryan? I mean, I'm pretty sure that you have quite a wide range of personalities, but would you say they normally conform to the same mold, or literally it's a random mixture of great people who are all from very different backgrounds?
So there's definitely some factors and some characteristics that kind of tie people together. So often the guy who's kind of, for me personally, like my ideal client will have certain elements of where I'll kind of see myself a few years ago in them, because that's always an enjoyable thing where it's, you know, I see exactly where this guy is at, and I can really kind of understand where he's coming from because I've been there. And so guys tend to be analytical, logically minded in some kind of industry, potentially like finance or accounting or in tech or engineering, where they're a great person, they're well educated, they're intelligent, hardworking, and like a good person. Like they're getting into this for the right reasons. And just for whatever reason, often it can be as simple as a one experience when they're younger that just, you know, the difference between these two guys, like two guys equal in every way, look identical, have the same job and everything like that. And when they're, I don't know, 12 or 13 in high school, one of them asks a girl out to the prom or whatever. We don't have the prom here, but whatever. And she goes, yeah, okay. And he goes, oh, great. And then he just forms the belief. It's like, oh, like when you like a girl, you introduce yourself and say hi and ask her out, and then she'll say yes, and it's great. And that will be his beliefs forever, and he'll never need, a dating course, ever. And then the same guy in the same situation, he goes, oh, do you want to go to the prom? And she goes, no, get away from me. And he goes, oh my God. And suddenly she's like, and he's like, and then he forms the belief. I mean, that's essentially like, there's a longer story about it, but that's basically what happened to me when I was like 10 or something. I had an experience like that. So I was like, oh, well, the worst thing you could possibly do is express how you feel to a woman, because then she's going to hate you, and she's going to cry, and everyone's going to laugh at you. And so never just express yourself to women ever. And then they will just go down this path of operating under those assumptions for so long that, despite everything else, it's just this one area of their lives, there's a lot of limiting beliefs kind of holding them back from it. And there's fewer opportunities to interact with women in whatever job they have, and they have, the small circle of friends, mostly guys from university who they kind of hang out with. But they don't see many opportunities in their day-to-day lives to be able to meet a girl. And even if they did, they're like, oh, well, she's a complete stranger. She's like in a bookstore or something. What could I possibly say to start this conversation that won't be weird? And guys like that usually do very, very well on the course, because they have all the tools. Like they can understand the concepts and the ideas. They're intelligent. They can smile. They can have a conversation. Right, an interesting conversation with somebody. It's just that there's a few limiting negative beliefs that are holding them back, that they just got installed in childhood, and they've just kept reinforcing over the course of their lives, because they've allowed their ego to prevent them from having the experiences they need to have to update those beliefs.
Okay, very, very interesting. I mean, I think it affects any one of us, like something that's happened in our earlier lives that gets embedded and ingrained and becomes a kind of part of our patterns. But I mean, in terms of like traders as well, a lot of people who try their hand at financial markets trading, I mean, they do fail. It's got a 92% failure rate. And those people who do have, dare I say, the testicular fortitude to continue, even though they're losing. I mean, we have found that some people have been trading for like 2, 3, 4, even 5 years and haven't been successful because they haven't taken the right training. These negative beliefs, like they don't deserve to win, are very firmly embedded, and they'll have the exhibiting behaviors that are congruent with that. But going back to, for example, the example which you gave of you being in the field, of seeing that lady walking down past the bookshop, say if you're attracted to her, how would you take action in that instance? Say if you're just walking down the street and you saw her walking by and she caught your eye.
Well, without giving away, without giving away what I teach other course, the main things. The main things is, that is for most women, even these days in kind of I don't know, Oxford Street or something in London, where we teach courses, and there are a few other companies still around that also teach courses over there. Even in that situation, even a girl there, it's an unusual situation for her. So it's not what the number one thing is, because we get guys who've maybe read some other stuff, and there was some big books written about this in the sort of the mid 2000s, like The Game by Neil Strauss, and all of that stuff is, although it sort of couches a lot of its terminology in terms of evolutionary psychology and these concepts that they say are universal, fundamentally that whole system and that whole model is based on an interaction in a nightclub, usually a sort of a higher end nightclub in America, maybe here, with a certain type of girl who is more likely to frequent those particular kinds of establishments. So it's not that universal, and it's an unnatural situation. Like you don't spend most of your life in a nightclub unless you are a nightclub promoter, in which case you probably don't need dating advice, because you're probably doing all right, from what I've seen. So the first thing is anything that you might have heard from any of that stuff that to do with meeting girls in bars and nightclubs, you have to throw out the window, because it will not work in the sort of the normal daytime situation. So because if you think about it, right, if you're a guy, you're walking up to a girl and she's holding a drink, she's standing in the bar, you're holding a drink, and you're walking up to her, it's going to be fairly obvious to her, like, what's happening. Like, it's like, oh, this guy's coming over, right? In fact, you'll often see, like, if there's two girls with them, they'll kind of look at each other with a little signal of like, oh, this guy's coming over, be prepared to be approached, to be hit on or whatever. But in a daytime situation, she's got headphones on, she's on her phone, she's walking somewhere, right? None of that is the case. There is no context for what it is that you're doing. So the very first thing is you have to go into that situation, and you have to avoid behaviors and actions and words that sound like the kind of thing that will happen the most in that daytime situation. If she's walking along in a crowded city, the kind of person who stops her, right, on that street will be a charity worker, will be someone handing out flyers, will be maybe a nightclub promoter wanting to get her into a nightclub, will be all kinds of people, all of whom are taking value, right? They all want something out of her. So if you start that interaction the same way as all of those people, e.g., oh, excuse me, sort of from the side, like trying to make eye contact before, like, getting in front of her and going, oh, excuse me, Matt, I just wanted to ask you about anything like that, is likely to immediately kind of throw up a barrier on her, and a mental barrier, right? She might try and avoid eye contact altogether, and she might try and just get out of that situation as quickly as possible, because she's like, oh, it's a guy, he wants to get something out of me, he wants to sell me something, he wants to give me a flyer, I'm not interested, I'm busy, I want to get out of here. So, and that's already, then you're fighting against the momentum of her wanting to get the hell out, assuming that you're taking value. So you have to do the opposite, or you have to do something that isn't any of those behaviors, and you have to begin the conversation with some kind of phrase, some kind of structure, some kind of language pattern that shows that you understand what's going on in her head, that you that you understand. Yeah, you probably assume that I'm somebody who's about to hand you a flyer or selling you something. You probably are making all these assumptions, but I can assure you that I'm none of those things. And what's about to happen is something completely different and very unique and unlike anything that you've ever experienced. And if you do that correctly, then you've got her listening and very curious as to what you have to say next. And we go through these language patterns and these structures and invent many of them constantly, and nobody else teaches this stuff. It's very, very, very powerful, so that you've got her in a place where you've got her attention. She doesn't assume that you're just about to hand her a flyer or sell her something, and she's like, oh, what does this guy want to say? Like, oh, this is very unusual. Like, and then again, completely against what everything else out there says. Most stuff out there goes, what you have to do is basically pretend. You have to what most books say in this area to guys dating advice is, whatever you do, don't tell her what you really want. Don't tell her that you're interested, that you find her attractive. Hide that and lie and pretend that the whole conversation for the first 30 minutes or hour is about something else. And then when you see some signs that maybe she might be attracted to you, only then do you actually kind of admit that you're interested. And in my experience, whether you're in a nightclub or whether you're doing some form of daytime approach, I just think that is going back to what I was saying before. It's completely inauthentic. It's incongruent. It's lying, and it doesn't work. It's less effective. So as soon as we have our attention in the right way, the very, very next thing is to immediately express interest in her and say just make it clear, the reason that I'm here is because I found this aspect of you attractive and I wanted to come meet you. And when done right, when done correctly, that's a very, very powerful thing, because most guys are so afraid of potentially being rejected that they never actually make it clear that they're interested in the girl. So all they're doing is they're playing this game where they're like, the longer I don't say that I'm interested in her, that's the longer I can have a conversation, and the longer I can delay the point at which I might be rejected. So they feel like they're doing well. They feel like they're doing better, because it's like, oh, I'm 30 minutes into this conversation and she hasn't rejected me yet, so I'm killing it. But the fact is if as anyone's had this experience, you're going out, you go to nightclubs, you try this stuff, you're having this conversation for 30 minutes, and then you express some interest, and then you're like, oh, we should see each other on a date sometime. And then she goes, oh, I've got a boyfriend. And then most guys get really angry that they've spent 30 minutes trying to build rapport and doing all these clever things and telling all these stories and making her laugh and telling all these jokes, all for the sake of, in their minds, getting nothing out of it. Oh, well, she's got a boyfriend. Oh, I wasted all this time. So my thing is, as I was saying before, is just make it very clear initially. And then what'll happen is if she's not interested, I'll find that out. I'll get that bit of feedback. As long as I'm not emotionally invested in it either way, and I don't mind, then I can get a very quick, thank you, that's really nice of you. Unfortunately, I have a boyfriend, but that made my day. Thank you so much. Goodbye. And to me, that doesn't feel like very much of a rejection at all. And two, I get it within a few seconds, so I don't waste my time trying to sort of build a connection with somebody who's not interested. And so that means that I can then focus my time and my energy on the girls who, when I clearly express interest, they go, oh, thank you. And they don't try to leave, and they don't politely decline. And that means then I know for sure, it's like from that point onwards, once I've expressed that interest, and then it said, I want to continue this interaction and find out about you. When I did that, the rest of the interaction for the rest of this conversation, when I first met her, all the way through to getting a number, all the way through to seeing her again, I can proceed on the basis that it is because we are both attracted to each other, right? We both want to see each other again because there is mutual attraction and mutual interest, and that takes a huge amount of mental energy and emotional energy out of it, because one of the biggest things that guys have is that, I mean, they read whole books on like female attraction to be like, does this girl like me? Does this girl like me? I don't know. We did this, he did that. She was playing with her hair. I'm not sure. Does she like me? Does she not like me? I don't have the time or the inclination or probably really the intelligence, to be honest, to try and figure out all these nuances of like, does that mean that if she says something that way and plays with her hair like this and says it like that, does that mean that she's definitely interested, or is she just being polite? I just want to know for sure. And the easiest way to know is to make it clear from the very beginning why I'm speaking to her. And if she goes, yeah, thank you, and is still standing there, well, she must, right? She's not just tacitly, she's very much overtly accepted my invitation to have this interaction, and it's on the basis of, yeah, we both like each other, we want to find out more about each other, we want to go on a date together, and there's mutual attraction here.
So the direct approach, as opposed to the indirect approach, at least gives you your verdict so that you're out of the purgatory. Like we talked about earlier, the worst kind of trade you get is one which doesn't give you a profit or doesn't really give you a loss. It's where you're in the balance for a long time, like 5 days. And I guess you can compare that with, say, for example, when you're interacting with a new lady, whether you haven't got your verdict, whether she's candidly interested in you or not. You're just, I guess, going into kind of friendship zone with polite, inconsequential chit chat. I mean, would you say that's a parallel?
Absolutely, man. And that's the thing. So many guys come to the course having experienced this, and it was my, I mean, I say dating life, but there was nothing really romantic going on. Most of my interactions with women that I was interested in were exactly that. They were essentially, polite, inconsequential. You used a word that I can't pronounce, damn you. Now I look like an idiot. Polite chit chat about interesting topics. There was with zero kind of actual undertones of anything romantic, where I was just put in this friend zone immediately, and was constantly like asking myself, curious, wondering, not knowing, does this girl does she like me, or just like me? And just no idea. And then when I did eventually, after like months and months and months of this, like make a move, more often than not, she'd be like, what are you doing? We're friends. And I'd be like, again, like just heartbroken and upset and just why? So yeah, exactly. Just like I often say right at the beginning of the course, I ask the question to the guys, what's the opposite of love? And most people say hate. And I say, no, the opposite of love is indifference. Because if you love or hate somebody, at least you have an emotion towards them. And I don't know if you've had this experience, but I've had friendships with people in school and various things where initially I actually hated that person. I've had relationships where the girl tells me, like, when I first met you, I actually really didn't like you. But then as I got to know you, whatever, it's because that's always possible, because at least you feel an emotion about that person, and you'll actually think about them, and you'll wonder, why do they think that? Why are they being so annoying? And that's way, way better than for someone to just be so lukewarm that they're just like, Ryan who? Like, I don't even remember this person. Like, that's the worst. So again, yeah, this is all about like, how can we front load this interaction so that there's no way, like if you do this right, you give it a really amazing, authentic, sincere, direct compliment to this girl within a few seconds of meeting her for the first time. And then you express interest, like, and I want to get to know you, I want to find out about you as a human being. There's no way you can be like, just be like, okay, I guess, like, and just be completely indifferent to that. It's so powerful that you only have two choices. Either not, just be like, look, listen, I'm going to stop you right there because there's no way this is going to happen, which is fine, right? I really thank you for saving my time. Or they're like, wow, that's amazing, thank you so much, and then there is no, but I have to go, which means yes, that's it. Those are the only two outcomes, and you can get it within the first few seconds, so that there's no more guessing. There's no more like, oh, am I good? Oh, am I attractive enough? Am I good enough? Am I saying the right things? Am I being funny enough? Am I cool enough? Should I tell a display of higher value story about my Ferraris? You don't need to do any of that. You don't need to do any of that.
So at least you're not left wondering. For example, I mean, from my own experiences in my single days, say if I would see a beautiful lady in the street and I would not go up and talk to her, for example, and then I'll be left wondering, had I gone up to her and maybe just broken the ice, it could have gone one of two ways, either very well or very badly, but at least I wouldn't be left wondering. And that's very similar to when you see an opportunity in the market, which fulfills all your kind of rules for entry. And you don't take it, say you're tired or for some reason, you've got this kind of like recency bias because you had a losing trade the other day and you don't take it. And it's the one that smashes the ball out of the park and it leaves you feeling even worse and kind of like really enforces that negative pattern. But Ryan, just moving on from like approaching women and moving on to dating, which I'm sure many of your clients has gone on to do after many good initial first, second or third interactions. This might sound a little bit cheeky, but certainly within our trading community, we really do encourage the concept of risk management, where we don't risk any more than 1 or 2% of our trading account per trade, no matter how good it looks. So in the same vein, I mean, would you say to students, no matter how good their, say, for example, their date is or appears or how encouraging the interaction was, that you shouldn't spend any more than a predefined amount of money on the first date? I understand that many guys make this mistake where they shower the lady with gifts, expensive dinners out, and things like that. But would you recommend that, or just keeping it very, very kind of like simple and to the point?
That was again highlighting another one of the big mistakes I would make is exactly that. I'd be the super nice guy. I'd be the gentleman because that's what I was taught, and that's what your parents tell you. That's what your mum always tells you, especially, and that's what all the Disney films tell you, which was pretty much how I learned about how to speak to women, was from watching Disney films when I was 8. And then, so yeah, I'd go through the nice thing, and then suddenly, right, you're this nice guy, you're this basically this platonic friend, and then you go, oh, come on a date, and then you just go overboard with the fancy dinner. And here's the thing, what you think you're doing is showing the exact qualities that you believe is what women want. So you're like, you're showing her, look, I care about you so much that I want to I want you to eat the nicest food and drink the nicest wine, and I want to give you all this flattering attention for hours and all this stuff. But what she feels is very different, because if this is like the first date, it's essentially coming out of the blue, and she'll feel very, very weird, because she'll feel like, why is this guy doing all this stuff for me when I haven't actually done anything to deserve it? It feels weird. And the equivalent, it was actually a analogy that Adam Lyons gave, which I really like. He said, if you spent years saving up for like your favorite car, let's say for me that would be a Tesla. So you spent years saving up for this Tesla, and you finally got it, and it was, you dropped the 150k cash for this Tesla, and it got delivered, and it's brand new, and you take it out for a spin, and then you go and you clean it, you polish it all, and you're all so happy about this car that you spent years working hard to save up to afford. And then the very next day after getting it, in a completely separate competition you forgot that you entered, you win the exact same Tesla. And the second one comes along, and it's exactly the same color, interior is the same, everything's the same. And you're like, well, I can't actually fit two of the, I don't need to, and I can't fit two of these in my garage. I need to get rid of one. Which one would you get rid of?
The one which you won, I presume.
Yeah, exactly. You'd never in a million years give up the one that you even though they're identical, right? You'd immediately give up the one that you won because you didn't do anything to win it. But
yeah,
you feel a real emotional attachment, a real sense of like, I earned that first one, and I bought it with my own money. I worked really hard for it. I saved up for it. Of course, that's the one you'd keep. You value things more when you've earned them, and that's why going overboard on a first date's a bad idea, because she will not subconsciously. She probably won't articulate it in that way, like on the first date. She'll probably happily take, like, again, if I offered you like a free, like, hey, do you want to have like a free, dinner on me or whatever, then, you're not going to say no to it. But subconsciously, she'll feel like, I didn't really earn this, and it feels weird, and it makes her, like, again, mostly subconsciously, she'll be questioning, like, so if I essentially did nothing, apart from speak to this guy for like 5 or 10 minutes, whatever, at a bookshop or at a friend's party or something like that. He doesn't really know me. I haven't really done anything. And then he showers me with all this stuff. How low are his standards for behavior and for women? 2, how inexperienced is he with women, and how long has it been since he had a girlfriend, and what does that mean? Like, what's wrong with him? Right? Those are all the things, right? So those are all the things. So again, subconsciously, that's all the stuff that's going to be bubbling under the surface. So the rule is simple. It's like, absolutely, like, do nice things for your girlfriend you've been dating for 6 months, a year, right? When she's she's consistently done things that are amazing, and you've had amazing experiences together, and she's been really, really sweet to you and done nice things for you and whatever and all that stuff, yeah, absolutely. Like, if there's a nice 50-50 in that relationship, do something for her. But at the very beginning, all you're doing by going overboard on the first date is basically saying, I don't really know what I'm doing, so I'm going to try and buy your affection. And what you're
a dangerous precedent, would you say?
And that's basically like what you're doing is, like, the nice guy thinks he's being nice, but actually the nice guy, by trying to buy a woman's affection, is treating her like a prostitute.
Yeah,
which is quite insulting.
Very good point, actually. If you can flip the kind of script around, I mean, if I was taken out and had, say, for example, £500 spent on me at, say, the Mandarin Oriental, I would feel that I'm under pressure, even if I have no real kind of like romantic connection or spark with the lady who might be taking me out. I would definitely feel under pressure to give her something in return. And it must make them feel quite awkward, to say the least, if you flip the script around a bit.
And the other thing as well is obviously we have a whole structure for the actual conversations itself, so that when you are getting that phone number, it's very likely that you have stuff in common, and the first date will be fun. But also, you don't necessarily know that it's going to go well. What happens if you have like the classic, very long, sort of dinner and drinks at the same one place for 2 hours? It's a commitment for her as well, and it's a commitment for you. It's like, we're going to spend a few hours together, and maybe maybe the initial interaction wasn't that long, and you didn't really know that much about each other, and it could, it might not be that great. But both, like, for either of you, right? She might end up not being the type of girl that you actually want to, you could see yourself dating in the future. So it's best to sort of wrap that up and actually give a recommendation. It's best to make meet somewhere initially that is relatively low pressure, where you're just going to get a drink of some kind. It doesn't necessarily even have to be alcoholic if you don't want it to be, where there's kind of a time, like, there could easily be a time frame of 30 to 45 minutes on that. And if it's just not working, and it's just not, you guys aren't vibing together, you could just be like, oh, well, this is great, see you soon, whatever, nice to meet you, and you could just leave it there. But also, there's the possibility then, if it is going well, you meet for the first drink, and it's going well, then you can be like, hey, I know a good place that has whatever kind of food that you guys decide you'd like to eat just around the corner. Why don't we go there and then just transition keep going with the date, but just transition it to a second location and then continue that. And that also it ends up feeling a lot more fun and a lot more interactive, and it tends to go better when you have maybe 2, even 3 different places where you go have different experiences at those different places. And what's cool about that is you build in the opportunity at any one of those points. You can just call it a night if, for whatever reason, you're not having a good time.
Interesting. We have this expression in trading called cut your losses and let your winners run. And that's
there you go.
Like what you're doing. And that's a great kind of like parallel, which... So there you have it. Okay, Ryan. Well, I understand that you're about to jet off to LA, I think, somewhere warm and sunny. So I won't keep you for much longer, but it's been fantastic talking to you. And thank you so much for sharing your pearls of wisdom. For those people who are listening and would like to find out more about what you offer, Ryan, where can they find you?
Couple of places, actually. So the site is sashapua.com, and there you can get immediate access to a video series that Sasha put together. He's my mentor. He's the guy who taught me everything I know, and designed and created the whole system that we call Day Game. The process of everything from seeing a girl that you find attractive to walking up to her, having that initial conversation, getting her number, seeing her on a date, and turning those dates into a relationship. So he laid out that entire process in a 4-part video series, which you can access for free on that site, sashapua.com. And we also have a new Facebook group community. Again, it's completely free. There's no charge for it. And if you search on Facebook for the art of meeting and attracting women in everyday situations, I know that's a bit long, but any combination of most of those words, you'll probably stumble upon the group. It's a private group, and it's there for guys who just want to share what they're doing, what's working, what's not working, what their challenges are, with me and the rest of the coaching team. And we just give you advice, stuff to try out, and it's all in that private group.
Great. Well, those links will be at the bottom of the video and in the email if you receive it. So once again, Ryan, thank you so much for taking time out of your busy schedule, and we wish you a safe trip to the United States.
Thanks for having me.